Hi, everybody. Yesterday you took a quiz. You took a quiz, and the quiz was called Writing an Outline and a Summary. And you read a paragraph about intimacy, right? So I am going to go over that quiz with you so you can understand what you did and if you did it right or if you did it wrong. Okay? So here is the paragraph. And it says, Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary defines intimacy, and notice that this is a book, so it's italicized, but then so is intimacy here. So intimacy is a vocabulary word. That's what I know, right? So intimacy, the Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary defines intimacy as a state of very close association, content, or familiarity. Okay? Researchers have identified 4 kinds of intimacy. The first, and I'm going to just write, there's 4. So we all know that the author's trying to give me some help here. There are 4 types of intimacy, and here's the first kind. So there's 1, is physical. Fortunate children are continually nourished by physical intimacy, being rocked, fed, hugged, and held. As we grow older, we hug, shake hands, and continue to seek physical intimacy of all kinds. Intimacy can also, and see, here's a connecting word, also, right? Intimacy can also come from intellectual sharing, right? There's another, it's 2. Okay, so intellectual sharing is our second kind, right? Okay. When you engage another person in an exchange of important ideas, a kind of closeness develops that can be powerful and exciting. There's another connecting word, right? Another kind of intimacy, there's the other one, is emotional. Exchanging important feelings, okay. Sharing personal information can both reflect and create feelings of closeness. Last, there's another word that's helping me, right? Shared activities, there's my 4th. Shared activities, there's a gnat on my paper. Do you see it? Oh, I missed it. There, I got it. Okay, good. Last, shared activities can be seen as a dimension that achieves intimacy. Shared activities can include everything from working side by side at a job, in a study group, or meeting regularly for exercise workouts. All right, so as I was reading, I was keeping track of what was going on in the text. That's what I do, right? That's my annotation, and I didn't even write anything in the margins about like, oh, I've hugged people, because my purpose for reading this paragraph is to outline it, because that was what the task was. So I needed to make sure that I understand the text, and I need to, first of all, write a thesis statement. So I already know that this is my topic here, right? My topic is intimacy. And I already know where my controlling idea is too. My controlling idea is that there are 4 kinds, because that is what the whole article is about all 4 kinds of intimacy. So here is my controlling idea. I'm just going to put CI there, controlling idea. So now I already know what it's about, and I already know what my controlling idea is. So now I just put those together, right? And I don't know an author, And I don't know where this came from, so I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to just do topic, intimacy, controlling idea, 4 kinds. And then I'm going to write this equals thesis statement, right? There are 4 kinds of intimacy. That is a complete sentence. Great, so now I look back. Is there a sentence that is like this? There are 4 kinds of intimacy. I'm going to look at this because, wow, 4 kinds of intimacy, 4 kinds of intimacy. So let's see. Researchers have identified 4 kinds of intimacy. That looks like a really great thesis. So here is my thesis statement, right? So I'm going to just start with my outline, and that's what I'm going to write here. Researchers, and I got to quote it because I'm quoting from the text, right? Have identified 4 kinds of intimacy. There's my thesis statement. Okay, and now my major support are where my numbers are, right? Those are the 4 kinds. I already have numbered them off because the author gave me 4, so I numbered them because that's what I do. So the first one is physical. Physical intimacy, right? But I'm going to take a look up here. And are there any examples of what physical intimacy is? Well, sure. Being rocked, fed, hugged, held, shaking hands, right? So those are all of my minor support. So I'm just going to start numbering. Being rocked, being fed, hugs, being held, and then there's hug up here again, but I already have hugs, so I'm going to do 5 is shaking hands. Okay, so there are my physical intimacy examples. Now I can do a B, and I have to make sure it lines up. B, where's my 2? Intellectual sharing. Right, and does it give me any examples? When you engage another person in exchange of an important idea, closeness develops. So I'm going to put exchanging important ideas, right? But that's really the only example. So I can go to C, and that is emotional. Okay? And that's exchanging important feelings. and sharing personal information. Okay. And then my last one is shared activities. And that's working side by side at a job, in a study group, or exercise workouts. So working together, at a job, studying together, or exercising. Right? Okay, so I have my outline done. It's right here. Researchers have identified 4 kinds of intimacy: physical, being rocked, being fed, hugs, being held, shaking hands; intellectual, sharing, exchanging important ideas; emotional, exchanging important feelings, sharing personal information; shared activities is working together at a job, studying together, or exercising together. So those are the bones of this paragraph, right? And now we see that hierarchy, and we see where the major support is and where the minor support is. It's quite a bit of minor support here, right? So then if we were going to write a summary, I'm just going to get paper here. Hold on. We're going to write a summary. I'm going to look at my outline, because my outline is kind of awesome. And I know that I have to start with my thesis statement, right? So that's how I start my summary. And of course I would label it. And I didn't label this, right? But I should have labeled it, right? Okay, so I'm going to start with researchers, right? And I have to quote it. Have identified 4 kinds of intimacy. First, there is physical. Next is intellectual sharing. And I'm looking at it and it says exchanging important ideas. And I kind of already know that. Even though I've never heard of intellectual sharing before, I know what that means just by the words. So I don't think I need to have a minor detail here. I totally know what physical intimacy is already. I don't need to, write down a bunch of examples for that because I already know. So first, there is physical intimacy, comma. Next is intellectual intimacy, intellectual sharing, sorry, followed by emotional intimacy, and finally, shared activities. Okay, so there's my summary. I have all of my major support in there, and I have my thesis statement. Researchers have identified four kinds of intimacy. First, there's physical intimacy. Next is intellectual sharing, followed by emotional intimacy, and finally shared activities. Done. Okay? Now, if you needed to remind yourself of some of these minor details and you had some of those in your summary, no problem. No problem. But remember that the goal for a summary is to be as short as you can make it, as long as it has all the information that you need to have in there. I have all the information, so I'm good. Good as gold. So that is how I would have done that quiz. I hope this was helpful. And I hope that your quizzes didn't overwhelm you and that it was just as easy for you. And I will see you in the next presentation.